Hey folks, Thomas from the Booze and BJJ podcast. My co-hosts are all unavailable this weekend. Wow, I sound very radio-ish. But I've decided to review a video from Fight Front that is between an MMA fighter and a pacifist. Now, I didn't really watch this before recording this video, so we're going to both pretty much watch it together. And I predict that the pacifist pretty much won't know very much about combat sports or MMA at all and is going to make a lot of assumptions. And the MMA fighter is probably just going to be very informational, I assume, or at least cordial. But anyways, let's get going. Let's see what we can see.
Pounding this guy's head.
It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
If you did what you did on the street, you'd be arrested, right?
And it's just nice to be nice.
That surprises me, I must admit. So my name is Ingrid Marsh, I'm based in London, and I'm here at MMA On Point to talk about this sport you call martial arts, something, MMA, martial, something or another. Mixed
She didn't even... Wait a minute.
martial arts. And questioning what?
Did somebody correct her? Hold on.
So my name is Ingrid Marsh, I'm based in London, and I'm here at MMA On Point to talk about this sport you call martial arts, something, MMA, martial, something or another. Mixed martial.
Yeah. With that cut there, it sounds like she probably didn't know what MMA stood for, and then somebody off-screen corrected her, and they cut that part out. So yeah, this isn't looking good for her already. It looks like she doesn't know the subject matter, but has a strong opinion about it. But let's continue.
Martial arts. And questioning why anybody wants to do this. Well, you can't be a very nice person, can you? This is what you do for a living. So
What? Like, you don't know anything. You obviously don't know anything about the sport. You obviously don't know anybody who does it. So how can you come to that type of conclusion? It's just weird to me. You know, the default opinion on things that you don't know is null. You know, nothing. Like, I don't know. That's basically what your opinion should be. But for some reason, people can pull opinions out of thin air. Anyways, let's continue.
don't expect that you have a good heart. So I'm imagining someone who's probably okay on the outside, but that wouldn't be real, would it? Because inside you batter people for a living. What?
I mean, if somebody was in a combat sport, such as MMA, and they were not a good person, they would probably end up doing something outside of the ring that would get them arrested. That's how you weed those people out.
Why do you want to do that with your life? And to me, like, this box is just your feet. Here, you're just like, get in there, shoot arms, legs, head. It's like there's no boundaries, there's no rules.
I don't even think I can comment on that. And just to reiterate, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Let's just kill you.
Yo, if you didn't know and have been living under Dana White's biceps, Fight Front is sponsored by...
Just a couple of seconds.
Sorry, I skipped ahead.
Doing this with me, this is amazing.
No, well, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I bet I'm not what you expected.
No, you're nice. Although I've watched something, I would look at a couple of seconds
Seen
of
some
your
of it.
videos, like just a couple of seconds of what I could do. And I was like,
Hopefully the good stuff. me
well,
winning.
what we both call good might be different though.
Yeah,
That's
that's fair.
That's the thing, isn't it?
My name's Nathaniel Wood, and I'm a current UFC featherweight fighter. I've done martial arts since I was about 16 now, and it's finally, I'm able to make a living out of it. So this is my bread and butter, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. I started training when I was about 16 properly, but when I was around 10, 11, I was doing kickboxing for a couple of years, which I gave up to then pursue football, soccer. But yeah, I've always been a very active kid and very energetic. So I've just always wanted to do martial arts or football. Become an athlete. Ever since I was young.
So I'm curious. It sounded like she had watched videos of this gentleman right here. I'm wondering if they found somebody who is somebody who could be considered visually the least intimidating fighter they could find to have this conversation with this pacifist woman. Because, outside of the cauliflower ear, he looks like a standard dude. You wouldn't think that he was a fighter at all unless you knew the telltale signs, such as cauliflower ear. But if I were to sit him in front of pretty much any woman who held such a negative opinion, from what I can tell, as the pacifist in this video, they would never assume that this guy does MMA. And more respect to him. Like, no shade on him. So, he's also, very mild when it comes to how he talks, how he's speaking. So, maybe this is what's needed to get a conversation with this lady. So, anyways, let's continue.
And yeah, finally we're here. I'd say I'm a very family man. I don't do much other than train, go out for food with my family and fiance and my friends. I don't drink a lot. I don't party a lot. I'm not a big drinker. I don't like the taste of alcohol.
Did you guys notice that she seemed a little bit shocked by that when he said that he was a family man, etc.? Yeah, whatever. Continuing.
But in that, you'll see me in the coffee shop or restaurant, when I can actually afford to eat during my fight camps, and walking my dog. That's about it, really.
I describe myself as a free spirit. So someone who usually appreciates difference. I love nature, so I call myself a soul girl. A bit woo-woo, some would describe me, that I'm not very real.
All of those are... I'm sorry, but for me personally, everything she said would have been a red flag. Like, I couldn't... I don't know if I could hang out with this lady for too long without feeling the need to walk away. But, that's not here or there. That's just a personal assessment. Let's continue.
To get with life. But I kind of like my little fantasy world, It always keeps a smile on my face. I love another fighter. I love dancing. I'm a big old dancer. I'm the first on the dance floor. First on the dance floor, hands in the air like you just don't care. And the last to leave.
Whenever I do like a personal training session with someone, I try to say to them, imagine like rhythm in dancing. It's a similar sort of aspect. You've got to be able to move your feet. You've got to be able to move your feet with your hands differently. So I definitely think that the two kind of cross over. If you're a good dancer, I think that would help with fighting. And
she can't process it. But let me tell you, somebody who comes from a dancing background, yes, there's a definite crossover between dancing and martial arts.
I'd like to,
in terms of body movements, of course.
I think if you're an athletic fighter, I think I'd be able to pick up some dance moves quite easily.
I struggle to see the connection.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, because she doesn't know anything. She doesn't know anything about martial arts. She doesn't know anything about fighting. Like, of course, she's not going to get the connection. And I'd even go further to say that she wouldn't even put in the actual effort to understand the difference or the commonalities between the two. But either way.
So, I think it's all about rhythm and finding your beat, and I think that's like fighting. So when I'm if I'm teaching someone or calling someone, I'll always tell them to find that rhythm. As they say, rhythm is a dancer, right?
That surprises me, I must admit. I did see one bit of rhythm, actually, when I was watching doing a bit of research, and he was like sort of like pounding.
All right. She's intentionally bringing a negative, what she would consider to be a negative aspect of an MMA fight into the conversation to paint MMA in a bad light. She could have... I'm not going to go into could-haves and should-haves in terms of this conversation, really, or at least I'm not going to try to. But if you honestly want to have a rational conversation with someone and find and actually learn about it, the one thing that you don't do is try to paint the other opinion or the other side in a negative light. And this seems to be what she's doing right here.
Pounding this guy's head. Yeah. I suppose that could be rhythmic.
No, for me it's more on the striking. It takes two to tango, so depending on what my opponent will do, will depend on what footwork I may do. If he comes in a certain direction, I have to move off in a certain direction. You have to be able to pivot. You know, you have to be able to find that rhythm.
Oh, wow.
Whereas if you get two amateur guys, then maybe it's just a bit crazy. No one knows what they're doing. But once you get to a certain skill level, you know, it's kind of, I'd say imagine like fencing, two fencers. You know, how they would move their feet in and you move off. It's
I can
similar,
see it on fencing,
similar sort of thing like that.
Yeah, I've managed to look
But that's when you get to a higher level. The
Right.
higher level you are, the more kind of rhythm you would
there's
need.
a rhythm there.
Yes. Whereas to you might look at it as, oh, it's just a bit chaotic.
Yeah.
But if you see a high level fighter versus two high level fighters, versus two amateur kind of fighters, there is a big difference.
Okay, right, okay.
So more, all due respect to this gentleman, like he's seriously going out of his way to try to explain this to this poor lady, but she just can't fathom it, and I really don't think she's trying to either. I don't know if I've said that before, but yeah, there doesn't seem to be much of an effort on her part to actually understand what he's saying, so he can understand the point. But let's continue.
My goal has always been to use my platform to help people in the world. So I'm an ambassador for the Amelia May Foundation, which is a charity for kids with a rare form of cancer. I'm ambassador for Jigsaw for You, which is a charity for kids that have had tough upbringings, or they might be going through some stuff at the moment with parents maybe passing away or going through a divorce, things like that. I'm a member of the Bowel Disease charity. That's a friend of mine, so I went along to help him try and raise awareness for it. And also one of my sponsors, a roofing firm, they have their own charity organisation, which is 13 different charities, but they mainly focus on kids, that are dying. So my plan is to try and raise as much as I can for them, whether it's through, auctioning off memorabilia or just helping raise awareness. Hopefully there'll be a day where I can actually maybe go to like hospitals dressed up as a superhero, that sort of stuff, just to try and, put a smile on their face. I just want to do good in the world. We're all going to die eventually. I'm religious, so I believe that we're going to go somewhere when we die. And I'd like to think that the man upstairs is going to be there thinking, this guy's done a lot of good in the world. I want to make my family proud. And it's just nice to be nice.
This dude is a good human being, just flat out. I wish I could interview him. I wonder how that would go. But let's continue. Let's see the response to what he just said.
I try to encourage people to live very much a soulful life. So I do a lot of volunteering, like children at Saturday school and that kind of thing. But I kind of feel that my charitability happens on a day-to-day basis, where I encourage people to invest in their soul, their God that's within. So that's the other thing that differs between me and most religions. I believe in the God outside and the God within yourself. I love when you said you did a lot around children, because for me that is where the beauty.
Well, I mean, what the charities that he cited, those are tangible. Like, you can give money to them and you can see what they do to it. The type of charity that she's talking about, like spirit, it's effectively spiritual charity. That's intangible, that's how somebody, it's a feeling or a journey that's very personable. You can't really quantify that to see how that, affects people as, as a whole, or whatever the group that she's focused on helping. You can't really quantify that. You can't really measure that. What the charities the other guy cited, you can take a look and see how that's had an effect. Just a big difference there, in my opinion.
If we could only go back to those days, and it'd be a much more beautiful world. I remember working with someone and their dog died. I thought, crikey, dog died, like, why are you acting like that? So I didn't get it. But then I acquired a cat, and I thought, you can actually love an animal. And I actually think that animals and myself, I think we're on a similar vibration frequency.
She's losing me. She's losing me fast.
So I've grown to kind of love and connect with them.
The dog I grew up with just passed away about 3 months ago, which is the worst day of my life. Honestly, I don't think anything's hurt as much as that, and I could see it from my dad as well. Like, we're in bits. Do you know what I mean? And it took a few days.
All right, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, but kudos to him for trying to find common ground. I'm gonna skip ahead to the 8-minute mark.
And then the humans were in a cage. And if you flip it like that, that threw me off. You know, that messed my head. I was
yeah.
like, how is this a thing? And even like, I look at a goldfish and I'm like, how is a goldfish just stuck in a bowl? That's it. That's its life.
Yeah.
How is this allowed?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm surprised, actually, if I'm going to be really honest.
mm.
There's this beauty behind you, really. I'm surprised by that, keeping it real. I could have this totally wrong. I'm not a sporty person like that. But to me, when I think of like taekwondo, that kind of thing, it just feels like more like defence. But I don't see that. I'm surprised this came under martial arts. I struggle with that in my head. How it's actually called
So-
a sport.
This is all martial arts put into one. So it's almost like saying which martial art would win. So, you know, if your
So she's admitting she doesn't know the subject matter. Okay.
son was training taekwondo and a bully on the street who was a boxer came up, you know, which martial art's the better? So that's how I'd say it started, you know. People wanted to say, what martial art would win if they were all put in together? It's in a way, it's like there's no rules, but there are a lot of rules. So we get to kind of decide who the best martial artist is, whether you train in Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and now, you know, it's an actual mixed martial
But
arts.
I
and
watched
stuff.
a video on the way here,
Mhm.
3 seconds of it, where he was like thumping this guy in the head quite viciously. Which one of the martial arts is that one?
So that would be your ground and pound finishing. The keys to winning is a knockout, if you get a KO, which, you know, is no different from karate, boxing, kickboxing, taekwondo. A submission, which is your jiu-jitsu, so that's where the guy is going to tap out, or you get a technical knockout. So it's where, say I've hit the guy, he's not knocked out, but then you have to follow up until the
So she keeps going. This is the second time she's pulled up the ground and pound example. Like, she keeps harping on it as if there's something inherently negative about that. If you want to finish a fight and you want to finish it quickly, that is a very good way of doing it. But, you know, again, like I've said multiple times before in this review, she doesn't know the subject matter, so, you know, she's going to try to bring it up as a negative talking point.
ref says, right, enough's enough. So I've had fights before where I'm dazed out of my head. The guy's still hitting me, and I've recovered because I'm still in the fight. But if I wasn't in the fight and the guy's just hitting me and I'm not defending, that's when the ref would then step in. And that's what you probably saw. You saw the ground and pound, which is a guy trying to get the finish, which of course is never going to look nice from if you just see just that. It's like, oh God, what's he doing? He's hitting a man that, you know, can't defend himself. But then that's where it's the ref's job to then step in, stop the fight before obviously he gets too hurt.
And to her is subjective, really. I guess it's
when the guy stops defending himself. So, you know, if I had a fight where I'm very dazed, you know, I wasn't sure what was going on, but I was still able to be in the fight and survive. If the guy had knocked me out to the point where I'm no longer defending myself, that's when the ref would stop in
So
and
you
say,
say, when you say be in the fight, sorry if I'm taking this, when you say be in the fight, does that you just being able to do that?
no, I still know what's going on.
So how can you, he can't tell that, the ref can't tell that, you know.
No, so there have been times where refs have stepped in far too early. I've had it myself, where...
To me they're not stopping early
No,
enough.
so in this fight, this was against John Dodson in the UFC,
Yeah.
he caught me with a shot, dropped me, which meant I went to the floor. As I was getting up, he came in and was throwing his shots like what you would have seen, and I was still in the fight, I was still getting up. As I got up to turn
Getting
around...
up or stumbling up.
I'm getting up with him jumping on me. None of the shots that he followed up with are actually doing any damage,
Right.
but they obviously look to the ref like, ooh, it's a bit nasty. The ref stepped in, that's the fight over. I'm looking at the ref going, no, like, come on, I'm fine.
So you're all right?
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. And yeah, there's also been times where you see fights where you're thinking, ref, stop this fight, and they haven't stopped it.
All right, so what she's displayed here is, again, a lack of understanding of what's, you know, of the subject matter. When she is asking about, you know, when the ref knows when to stop, if you notice, she started coming to making opinions and conclusions that, you know, basically out of thin air. And this gentleman here is doing his best to educate her, but I find this video to be, this conversation to be a little bit hard to listen to. You know, for educational purposes, it's, you know, somebody in the know talking to somebody who's not in the know and explaining things to them. From that perspective, I give credit where credit is due. But as a conversational piece, as a conversation between two people, I don't know how productive this is, other than displaying the ignorance of one party and watching, the person with the expert knowledge on the subject matter, the MMA fighter here, and just watching him educate the other person. And while I see the good in that, we need to watch out for people who make opinions like this lady here. I've known people who are ignorant of what MMA is, what jiu-jitsu is, what Muay Thai is. I've encountered these same types of people who have heavy-handed opinions on it, and they don't know left from right. When I trained in Arlington, this is years ago, we had a guest in the gym, and she brought her kid in, and she was looking around. She looked at, she observed one of the adult jiu-jitsu classes, and, I saw that she was getting ready to leave, and I, just to be kind, I went and checked on them. I didn't have it was the rolling portion of class. I didn't have a partner, so I was like, hey, do you have any questions? Are you okay? Just checking in with them. And she was like, yeah, I think this is too violent for my son to be in. And I was like, well, all right. Well, what do you have a question about? Like, what do you think is too violent? And she was just saying how she didn't understand. Basically, she just said she didn't understand what was going on, and she saw somebody get choked with a rear naked choke. Excuse me. And she just thought that was just too much. So she decided she wanted to take her son and enroll him in a Taekwondo school instead. And, hold on a minute. Excuse me. But anyways, she said that her intention was finding a place that her son could learn effective self-defense at. And so she went from the gym we were training at to taking him to a Taekwondo school. And she came back a little while later to check out the women's kickboxing classes at this gym, and I checked in with her again. And she said, oh, my son is a lot happier at his Taekwondo school. He's already a yellow or orange belt or whatever. And I just wanted to tell her, you're probably going to, if your intent is finding effective self-defense, you're probably setting him up for failure by sending him to a Taekwondo school versus something a little bit more practical, BJJ, Muay Thai, wrestling, boxing. Something a little bit more like that, in my opinion, is much more effective in terms of self-defense than, a Taekwondo McDojo. And there seems to be a lot of those in Northern Virginia, or not a lot, but a little bit more than I would like to see around. But anyways, yeah, I think I'm gonna stop it here. I don't feel like going through the rest of the 18 minutes of this video, listening to this conversation. It's just not for me. I gave it a try. Yeah, if you guys want me to review something else, send me requests. But yeah, informative, but not my cup of tea right now. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'll talk to y'all later.